What up, y'all? So I'm doing another replay game because I actually played this just recently without recording, but it actually turned out being a pretty good game overall, at least for me. So I kind of figured, I was like, well, might as well double back and replay it for you guys, and then kind of just give you commentary. So at the point I was playing teal, and unlike the last time where I was stuck on the other team where you guys couldn't see my role, I was on red's team this time, so you guys could actually see my role right here along with yellow's role and all that. But based on early on, I was thinking going aggressive, where I was thinking about going maybe 2 gold mines and then going into like a lot of footmen. But when I saw the grunt, my first impulse was get shamans, because they're just really good counter to those grunts. And I wasn't sure whether or not he was gonna go for more grunts or if he would wind up saving for a hero. So if he saved for the hero, I would win the lane. If he didn't save for the hero, it was kind of an in-between, where I could maybe win the lane or I might not win the lane. If he would have showed shamans or something like that for D-Spell, I probably wouldn't have won the lane. But ultimately, it was kind of under just the idea of kind of thinking of being aggressive. But early on, we were still getting kind of control a bit. Where unit base, we were a little bit in a better spot. But like you can see, he ended up throwing out rifles. And with rifles, I was like, well, that's not going to do all that much to me. And I can't remember if I went defend or not. No, I did not go defend. At this point, I saw that and I was going for the hero, I believe. Because you can see I went 2 gold mines. So my intent was 2 gold mines, get the tower, go 3rd gold mine. And I usually only might play that way when I'm in the middle position. Because middle position, you can kind of innuendo it. You can go aggressive for hero. You can go like aggressive unit base to see if you can help kind of cover yellow if he does something kind of interesting. And in this case, like you can see yellow, I was kind of wondering what yellow was doing at the start, because he went blink for his warden, so he wasn't doing any early unit damage. And it wasn't like he was really saving his hero that much, because quite literally he does no damage. Might get a cheeky hit or two, but he never really was saving himself in the unit position. But as it was, you can see that. And my choices were Alchemist, Shadowhunter, and I think Beastmaster was my 3rd. And because I was recently playing Shadowhunter, and because I really been wanting to get a good Alchemist game, I chose to go Alchemist. And I will tell you early on, it actually, once it got into later game, it made it to where it was a actual great strategy. Because early on he didn't do too horribly much, but he was still useful because I went the hill. And the other aspect you guys can probably figure I did, I also had priests, I also had druids. So the fact I had healing, and healing I decided to go to level 2 and add a couple bears. And because early on we weren't like miserably losing, I believe I went tier 3, I believe 2 waves down the road, if I'm not mistaken. Because even though we somewhat lost control a little, we weren't like horribly out of control. But naturally Red lost this one because he went for his hero, and Blue already had his plus a little bit better base at the start. So he was kind of weak for this fight. But like you can see, I have 2 priests right here. So the priests already were going to play dividends on the healing aspect. Where even ultimately, like the priests were able to keep some of my unit base from straight up dying too early. And I was able to do just enough damage with the lightning shield that he didn't get any gold. But again, I was still questioning yellow, and I think at this point he was at 3 gold mines. So mindset wise, I'm like, he's teching up. I was like, he's 100% going for gold mines. My only hope was that he wasn't gonna go for gold mines while he was losing his lane. Because if he went for gold mines while he was losing his lane and teching, then I would have kind of gotten really annoyed, because it's hard to win games when you have an ally who does absolutely no damage, goes max greed, but doesn't have any unit base of doing any help for like long periods of time. But because we didn't give him this tower too early on for his greed on 3 gold mines, it kept us sitting pretty well. And like you saw the last wave, Red had lost his last wave, but then he came out with the Lich this wave and took over. And I also had this, I believe, get tiered up. Yeah, there it is. So I was aiming to try to save his Lich, and I did. Priest ended up being the ones who saved it. But like you can see now, I got healing all across the board. Made it really, really, really hard on him. And it also kind of incentivized me on something else that you'll see, where I even said to myself, it was kind of early to go the route, but I was like, you know what, why not? But I believe I teched up during this wave, I believe. Could be wrong, but I want to say I teched up on this wave. Because my mindset was, I had about I was going to have about 40 seconds or 30 seconds. Yeah, tier 3. So my mindset was, we are right now, we're in control of the lane, kind of fairly well. So my mindset was, if I can tech up, get Bear, get Shaman, and that be what I just got during the next wave, I figured that would be pretty well based. Because I didn't believe they would be ready for Bears, and I also didn't believe they would be ready for Bloodlust, because it was still only 10 minutes in, and nobody had lost a tower. But the thing that was hurting Purple was his Raiders really didn't do a whole lot when it came against me. But I saw him start going the little Invis thing. So I pretty much at this point too, I was like debated, do I go a flying machine because they have True Sight and it's 70 gold cheaper? but it probably would get picked off. And I would also have to get the attack ground base on it, because it would have just flew right past and kept on going. So really my options to that was I just ended up saying screw it, and I got a Gem of Kusine right there, like you can see. I was like, yeah, I thought about it, I was like, do I want to? But then I was like, well, if I go flying unit plus the attack ground, just so that way he doesn't fly away, that's 230, that's 230 gold. So I would pretty much would have had a useless unit and spend 30 gold more just to keep it alive a tiny bit longer. Just really wasn't worth it. Just wasn't worth the strategy, so I was like, nah, I'm not gonna do that. But about right here you can see I was at 116 gold, so I'm like, come on. Got the bear, and then I also ended up getting Bloodlust. And like you can see, he wasn't ready. And the fact that his biggest reliance was going to be Invis in this wave, that me coming out with Bloodlust, healing, and all of that, he was just going to get destroyed. And which you can see he did. And then I got the tower. But with the healing that I had, it just made it so difficult for them to just deal with, because I was erasing their front line, getting into their back line. Now eventually they were able to kind of counteract a little bit and push us a tiny bit. But this is where I also saw yellow and went, oh, okay. Earlier, I think I saw it like a bit earlier when he was like teching. So I saw him going to Torrens, so I kind of understood what he was doing after a bit. But like you can see, he was at 3 gold mines. I went up to 3. Red went up to 2. So at this point, we were looking pretty good. Because now yellow's got his base of Torrens coming up and doing his damage. Red kind of became the weaker of the lanes because he didn't have a whole lot of damage styled units. Mostly his damage was from his Lich King, or from his Lich. My bad. But purple, like you can see, his whole reliance still was all about Invis. But the base that I had with my bears and the healing that I had, I decided, you know what? I want to say it was about right here where I started saying I'm saving. I ended up saying screw it. I saved for Scourge of Bone Chimes. Because I was like, you know what? I add Bone Chimes with his healing, with the priests. Now I also did mess up right here though, because I didn't get Dispel. I think I actually went like 2 ways without getting Dispel to stop that. So that was actually bad on my part. But I decided with the Bone Chimes, I was like, you know what? Priest, Bone Chimes for more healing, Alchemist for healing, Bears with the rejuves and all of that. It just gave so much longevity and so much extra ability for my units. And I will say, these Chimeras at one point become kind of a nuisance. But like you can see, Red really wasn't doing a whole lot of damage. His biggest base damage quite literally was his Lich. Now Spellbreakers do help though against his magic units, because it's just more damage to them. But it wasn't like a massive extra base. But like you can see, I went Hippogriffs or 2 Hippo Riders just to try to counteract the Chimeras a little bit. Because Orange had the Chimera, so I was having to go through that, and I wasn't as concerned on Purple at this point. Because Purple was always going to be pretty beat up against me. And like you see, I almost lost no units against him. That's where I got my Dispel. I was like, crap, why haven't I gotten that yet? But my Alchemist now is at level 5. So at this point, here pretty soon, I think it was this wave or the next wave, I ended up getting my next hero. I think it was my next wave. I think I built up units or level up for or leveled up my attack or something like that for this wave. So that way I could get the max out of this wave and then get my hero afterwards. But I believe this is where I save up to get the hero now. And given I'm on 3 gold mines, I was like, yeah, I should have no problem getting it. But like you can see, blue is going into air, trying to counter. Or trying to change the dynamic a little bit. Orange also was going into air. The only person who really wasn't going into air was just my guy. For going up against purple. Which ultimately, when it came down to it, gave me a lot of strength and ability. The part that made it tough was the fact of those talons. I couldn't get my units to focus those shims. So those shims were actually starting to create somewhat of an issue. Because I just couldn't get to them. But yellow with his tanks were kind of doing more than enough at this moment in time. But I think I did, yeah. There's the hero that I'm getting. Now, I don't remember what the 3 heroes I had for that one. I think it was like a Warden. I think it was Warden, Firelord, and Paladin. But because I was going kind of just on the hero, on the healing base, I decided I'll go Paladin. And the other aspect being, because I was going so strong on the front line, I was like, well, if I get Resurrection with the Paladin, I'll have the healing, revive, all mixed all together. My third hero, I was kind of hoping I would get Shadowhunter, just because then that would have been a complete set of healing, or Keeper. But I was kind of hoping for Shadowhunter, because Shadowhunter with this build, I think would have been just nasty. But the third hero I got actually also in his own base became nasty because he became another big portion AoE damage for me. And like you could see, I was pretty much still controlling quite a bit. The only area I was not able to get to was just his shims, which is what I said was starting to create some issues. But it's not like I didn't have units to eventually be able to counteract on it. Because, like, if you look, I have Dragonhawks, Riders, Frostworms, which you can see I built a Frostworm there. So I had plenty of ability to go with to counteract air. But I didn't want to go massively into air unless they started playing their hand on that. And at the moment, we had so much kind of control over that that I just didn't deem it necessary. And yellow was just going Tauren's tanks. And he also had some good, decent units too. I don't think he ever built any destroyers, come to think of it. Of course, judging on how it was, I don't think it would have done anything for him either. But now you can see I'm level 6 Alchemist. So this is the part where it started getting really, really good for me. Because I'm at 3 gold mines, a level 6 Alchemist. We're at 21 minutes, so I'm like, it's gonna start. Like, if they kept me, if we kept going for at least another 10 minutes, in my mind I was like, I'm gonna start procking out, and I'm gonna really start taking control. Because if you look, Frostworms, good double air counter. I had A-bombs eventually if I wanted to protect my druids. I had demos for more AoE. So it's like, if you look, I have AoE, healing, quick speed, where I could legitimately had just become a big ball of damage. If I had Frostworms over the top, Demolishers underneath, and then I had a strong front line that had a big healing behind them for longevity, it'd become hard to get through me. Which was what I was going through my mind and what I thought. And realistically, you could even see right here, I had multiple things kind of right in my face between a portion of his, and then, or I had his full army and then a portion of Blue's army, and I pretty much shredded it all down. So even right then and there, it was already starting to show that I had a lot of damage. Now, the other thing I don't really know, though, is I never really realized and looked to see what skill he went with Warden. I knew he had Blink, but we almost lost our tower right there, too. So it was like literally starting to look like they kind of were starting to need a pushback. And in my head, I'm like, fuck. Allies are, I was like, man, my allies really losing control right now. And I believe they do get the tower here, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, they get the tower here. So I was like, man. I was like, yeah. And then I think at this point, too, I also had looked, and I think he went 4 gold mines. Yeah. So I was like, come on. And then red went 3. So it was kind of greed. But I was like, man, come on. I was like, I'm already looking like we're in a good base. Kind of becoming a carry lane. I was like, man, don't put me to where I'm kind of stuck having to do it all. But even ultimately, like you could see, they started doing some damage to me. So they started showing some life against us. But yellow had just mass tanks. But like you can see, they started becoming hyper reliant on going air with shims. So it started kind of forcing my hand to start building like Dragon Hawks and Hippogriffs. And I believe even like some more Frostworms. He even said it too. But like you can see, blue was starting to go heavy into it. Orange was starting to go heavy into it. Red, I kind of don't fully know why he became behind in this. I don't know where Red went wrong on like strength here, but like you can see, just my unit base I got right there is still just a big ball of energy, and then or damage. And then I started seeing him go Frostworms. As soon as I saw the Frostworms, I was like, all right, I'm gonna have to start really adding in more air. But like you can even see, I'm still, my hero over here is still alive, getting XP and almost about to be level 6. Because he's level 5 right now. My Alchemist was still alive, giving me extra gold. And I believe at this point too, with all the extra gold I had, even though Red was like, he's at 3-2, I was also at 3-2. But I don't really know what he went for his Warden. Really don't. I'm gonna watch him and see, because I never really saw his Warden like do much of anything other than blink. So I'm gonna assume he went Shadow Strike. Is my assumption. But the part that was kind of getting bad was blue was starting to really have red dead to rights, which started forcing my hand to really needing to be a damage provoker. Like I needed to do huge damage, and like you can see, I did. I almost lost no units in that fight. So it made it to where I took out red about half a red's wave. And then you could even see right here, I'm even doing more damage on this front. But he did still have a bit on me, like with Torrens still being alive. So I was like, man. But right here was where he disconnected. Okay, he did go Phantom Knives. I never really saw what he went. But I'm assuming, but when he came out, I saw yellow got disconnected, and my first mind was like, man, come on. Just one, like at the start of the game, my first response was it would be nice to get one game where someone didn't leave or disconnect. That still hasn't happened. I think I'm on like 7 straight games where someone is either disconnected or left. It's just getting kind of frustrating in that regard. It's getting hard to play games and get any really good recordings because of it. So that part of me is kind of frustrated to that. But like you can see, I'm 3-3 upgrades, and I didn't get the Shadow Hunter that I was hoping for, but I did get Tinker. And with Tinker, the huge part for him is once you get him leveled up with those missiles, that stun and AoE damage he does just comes up clutch. And like you can see right here, I'm actually sitting pretty strong because my hero is still alive, my other hero is still alive, some of my units were still alive, so I was like literally constantly, like I was literally forcing a push against their army. And it's been, oh, was that? I was about 21 minutes when I got level 6 Alchemist. So now for 10 minutes on multiple waves, I was getting gold from units from each time that he was summoning, I was getting gold. Sometimes he was living for multiples. And that was the other thing I didn't look at when I left the game was I didn't look at the gold disparity either of how much gold I got from my alchemist. But like you can see right now, they're already starting to have huge issues dealing with me. Because my air is strong now between my two. So they're having issues really being able to push me, which allowed Red to be able to recover. And ultimately he's got a lot of Dragonhawks, so he was able to start controlling some of that air too. And he also does have tanks, which I believe he eventually starts to build some. Or does he? Or no, he does not have tanks. I thought he did, but he actually did not have tanks. It was just Yellow who had them. And at some point I sell the gem because I no longer was dealing with invisible units, if I'm not mistaken. Or that might have been the game before. I might have kept gem on him. I might have kept gem on him, but I can't quite remember. I think I did. But I did make the Alchemist become like the ultimate team-friendly hero by the end game. But ultimately, like even you can see, I'm starting to really do a lot. They can't push me very easily. Red's coming in and he's just able to hit the next wave while my wave is starting to come out. And then I got another proc for another one. But literally, if you look, plus 30 damage, armor because of something. I don't know what actually, or oh, it's because he had the. Actually, I don't know. I don't know what was giving him armor there. But like literally you also had the Paladin with the defense boost as well, so you had the defense, oh maybe that's what it was. No, that's plus 5 though. I don't know what he was getting the armor from there. But like you could even see, also I forgot to mention, was with Paladin you had the defense aura plus the priests with their inner fire. It made it to where I had huge healing, good defense, plus just a big ball of damage over the top and becoming underneath. Like you can see, I started now having good wall there, started getting more there, and then you can see I started building abominations to give some area effect of disease cloud. But if you look, as soon as I roll up, just watch it how quickly I just melt everything. And that's what I mean by his stunning. It's so quick and there's so much damage. Like I still have a lot of damage units there. Like you can see, I even did a lot of damage on him. And now I got a level 5 Tinker, so that's now more AoE effect. But you can kind of see now how it's starting to go, where I'm just literally becoming a huge amount of damage. And realistically, there's not a whole lot they can do. Because now each wave, if they don't have like 4 gold mines, I'm pretty much, well, even if they had 4 gold mines, I'm matching them because we have control of the lane. Or actually, yeah, I'm matching them because we have control of the lane. So we're at 140, and that's what they're getting in there. But I also have Alchemist, who's giving me a lot of gold. The blue, so purple and orange both went for gold mines. So that was kind of the one benefit they had. But red also had 4 gold mines, and we have control of the lane. I have 3 gold mines with control of the lane, which still equals there too. But I also have Alchemist, that each time he summons is an additional income increase. So, for example, right now, each time he was coming out, just watch to see what my gold jumps to. So I was at 200, or I was at, like 250. I think he just picked up a cheap unit there. I think he targeted like one of the cheaper units, which gave me only like 50, 60 gold. But I mean, ultimately, that still pans out. And even with Starfall in my face and all this extra stuff, you can literally see I still really melted Orange's army quite a bit. Where Red's pretty much kind of on house money at this point. And even then, both my heroes were still alive, and I really never went hero items on any of my heroes until a bit later, and I only win them on Alchemist. I never got hero items for Paladin or Tinker, even though I thought about it. Because it was getting to a point I had so much damage output, I'm like, maybe I might just want to keep my heroes alive longer. But I decided not to. But you can literally see how much damage at this point I'm doing. Because even with the weekend arm, like even with my army weekend, used his effect again. See, like I have 500 gold again. Like each time my Alchemist went out, I ended up with a big amount of gold. But I think this is where I started. No, I think I just actually went maxed out across the board on frontline units before I bought anything else, if I'm not mistaken. Because I was like, just going frontline. Because I had the damage and the air already kind of, at this point I felt under control. I didn't feel like I needed really much more of an air superiority at the moment in time. Especially since when you look at it, I just start melting their armies. And then you add in Tinker's AoE. He just makes life so much easier when it comes to control. Yeah, see what I did right here is I already got the army starting to build. And at this point, they kept going, they kept pushing a lot more air because that was kind of their, I think that was probably the only thing they were thinking of that they can do to maybe get a little control back. But the air and all that they had, I had Frostworms and Riders and Dragonhawks. I not only could lock them up with the Ensnare, Hippogriff Riders do a lot of damage to them. And even right here, you can kind of see, I believe I do come down and I do get a bit of damage still, like right here. So it's literally just full out. At this point, it's like full out damage control. They just have a hard time pushing, let alone it's gotten kind of to a point. Not only is it hard for them to push, they're legitimately to a point where they almost can't even push me at all. It would actually take, it probably would have took 2 lanes where red like literally falls off, like red would have to fall off a lane and be able to push me. But like I was able to melt this army here without almost losing anything and still sitting at pretty solid strength. And then I come in here, Starfall right in my face, taking damage and all, and I'm like, it's all good. I'm just gonna keep on slicing through. Like I literally tore almost 2/3 of Purple's army completely apart before Red got there, with still units alive, getting heroes alive. Like my Paladin is still alive, my Alchemist is still alive, giving healing support. Got another proc with more gold, but literally we got so much buff. Like even then, my units were all still there. The only one that got summoned in this wave was Tinker, but even at that point, it's still alright, because they're not doing that much damage on me. And at this point too, I also had a lot of damage that went on against him too. But he did have support of the top of the castle, which helped him a lot. But you can still see his army got shredded. His army absolutely still just got shredded. Where we're almost now at this point pretty close to a full wave ahead of him. But like you can see, my ally, like red, did almost nothing to purple. So like this wave right here, I'm actually facing almost purple's full army, other than I think some other than some thorns. And even at that point, you can see I ripped right through him like he was tissue paper. And then I get Starfall right in my face again. That Starfall really, honestly, was what was giving a lot of work to him. But here's, I believe, where I start buying hero items on my Alchemist. Because I was like thinking I might spread in between 3 heroes. But then I'm like, Alchemist seems to constantly be the hero that stays alive the longest. So like you can see, I got Scourge on him that I got way earlier in the game. And then I picked these 2 up, which ultimately was for the damage. Picking up the Kodo, picking up the War Drums and the True Shot gave me the additional damage, which, quite frankly, because I was already a ball of damage to begin with without any items, now adding on all that is just more support for my units and just makes them even more ridiculously strong. And you can see it was already taking pretty well effect. AoE of my stun, the healing of my alchemist, along with just the extra gold I kept getting, the area of effect. He was trying to do the same thing with his Lich. But like you can see, now I got Legion Doomhorn. And I believe, and the reason why I went Legion Doomhorn first was because it was just more healing. More movement, 3 life regen. So not only do you have the healing, the priest, you add in the regen along with it, and for the ground units you get the Vamp Aura. It just made it to where I was really difficult for them to deal with. But then now you can see I got the Django. So now I pretty much turned him into a full aura hero. And the whole aspect being is because my alchemist typically was my last hero living, because his healing wave was typically just sitting in the back. So he'd be like always back here shooting over. I was like, having him with all the auras was just a smarter decision to do. But I was at what, 313? I don't know if he actually used it or not. But like you can see also, that was the other aspect being too. I also with also resurrection. There you go. See how it just jumped to 684. That's what it kept happening for me. It literally was just like to the point I was like almost playing a Monopoly game, because I was getting massive success out of it. And I saw right here, I was like, with how the push was and the fact I knew they could not stop me at this point. I think I say right here pretty soon that next wave, yep. Yeah, because I was like, unless they pulled a miracle, it was gonna be over. Because I already had still almost my full army here. My alchemist was mass aura. His Starfall once again though played huge dividend on pushing, on like really surviving a bit. And I think in my mind I was like, man, that freaking Starfall. But like you could see, they still never were able to push us back. And ultimately, like, they had all this. They almost could have gotten a stack. Almost. But it didn't happen for them. And at this point now, me coming in was just like a big ball. Once again, another big ball of damage. Got resurrection off. Pretty much melted this army. And then Blue really wasn't as much of a threat to me, because he didn't have a whole hell of a lot of stuff to counter me. I countered him hella hard, and like you can see, I went through and I just melted through his force. I just ripped him inside out. Because he had no damage against me. He had no real, like, true damage against me. So it made it to where I was able to do a lot. But like you can see, I ended up doubling almost everybody in kills other than Orange. I was almost at 1,600 with Orange being at 1,000. Like, I had a real strong game, and then literally on 3 gold mines versus 4 at some point, I was damn near what is that? 7,000, no, 6,000 gold more than red because of my alchemist. So I got to a point where it was just hard for anybody to deal. But I want to thank you all for watching, and I will see you in another one. Until then, have a good day. Later.